Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues. In June of 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage across the country, and the LGBT community nationwide celebrated, and many of you joined us in those celebrations. That was not the end of a battle by a long shot. Since then, there has been a wave of hatred and bigotry rising up in various cities and states around the country and passing some incredibly heinous anti-LGBT legislation. Two of the worst bills really ever have been passed in the past few weeks. In the state of North Carolina, the legislature passed and the governor signed HB 2, which overturns all state protections for gays and lesbians and puts new discrimination on the books. It actually overturns any LGBT anti-discrimination protection in any city or county throughout the state, and then it mandates new anti-LGBT discrimination. It is particularly hateful to transgender people. The law requires that in schools and public buildings, bathrooms must have a designated sex assignment, and users must use the bathroom corresponding to the sex listed on their birth certificate. You literally, to go into a bathroom, you could be required to show your birth certificate if you do not look sufficiently male or sufficiently female to use that bathroom. In addition to the anti-trans provisions and banning anti-discrimination throughout the state, it also forbids workers to sue the state government for anti-discrimination, not just LGBT. Any form of discrimination you can no longer sue in state court. It goes even further and says that local jurisdictions there can't have minimum wage laws or other types of worker protections. They bundled all of that into some of the most hateful legislation that I've seen. This boycott, there's been a nationwide boycott of the state of North Carolina doing business with the government and having official travel there that has been endorsed by the states of Connecticut, Minnesota, New York, Vermont, and Washington, D.C., by the cities of Atlanta and Boston and Chicago and Cincinnati, by Dayton and Honolulu and Miami and New York City, by Oakland and Philadelphia, Portland and Providence, Salt Lake City, San Francisco, and Santa Fe. It's been joined by the LA Metro, which refused to go to a conference there last week, by the public transportation company in San Francisco and in Seattle, and by many other places. And the question is, where is Los Angeles? So I'm asking today that we join this boycott, and I'd further ask that we add to that boycott the state of Mississippi, which just a few days after I submitted this motion passed House Bill 1523, which has been described by the ACLU as the most aggressive and hateful form of anti-LGBT legislation that has ever been passed. It, like North Carolina, bans all local protections. It, under the guise of religious freedom, allows an adoption agency to refuse to place a child with parents who lived together before they were married. It would allow a counselor on a suicide hotline to refuse to take a call or help a young teen who is LGBT. It would allow a car rental company to refuse to rent a car to a gay couple on their honeymoon. It goes so far that it would actually allow a company to fire women for wearing pants to work. And it also would permit reparative therapy, which is the forced conversion therapy for LGBT youth. And it would allow not only parents to force conversion therapy on their children, but it would allow foster parents who otherwise don't have the right to determine the educational courses that a foster child takes to conduct that therapy as well. This is state-sanctioned discrimination and state-sanctioned hatred. And when the state sanctions hatred and when the state endorses discrimination, hatred and discrimination increase. It creates a climate of intolerance and a climate of violence. I guarantee you in these two states that people are going to be fired. And I can guarantee you in these two states that hate crimes are going to increase and people are going to be beaten. And I can guarantee you in these states that young kids struggling with their identity are going to be bullied. And some of them will ponder suicide. That's not what Los Angeles stands for. And I'd ask that We join the boycott of the state of North Carolina until they repeal HB 2, and I'd amend it to include the state of Mississippi until they repeal House Bill 1523. Thank you, colleagues.